بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Now, there is one more example we can see here. In terms of class-based weighted fair queuing, we can define the bandwidth guaranteed options either in the form of fixed bandwidth. That's what we did in our previous example, where we have said they should get 128 kbps, they should get 64 kbps, they should get 64 kbps. So we can give either the fixed bandwidth value, and again, that should not exceed that particular limit, like 75% or 90%, whatever you change. But again, instead of that, you can also give this option in the form of percentage. Now, what I want is I want to reconfigure my policy. So I do have my class maps, which is already created on the router 1. So if you verify show on class maps, we already have this class maps. But if you remember in the previous example, we have configured the fixed bandwidth where this particular class will get this much of guaranteed bandwidth in case if there is any congestion. But again, what if I want to give in the form of percentage? So I can go and give the percentage as well. Now the main difference is, let's say this is my serial link, which supports 1.5 Mbps. Again, maybe service provider is offering, let's say 1000 kbps. So let's make it round figure. So what I'll do is I'll simply change the bandwidth interface, assuming that the service provider has given me the WAN speed of 1000. So you have to change that accordingly. So which means if this is 1000 means I can only allocate 75% of that, which is the default. Of course, we can change that to 90% also if you want with a command called maximum reservable bandwidth option. So maximum reservable bandwidth option that can be used to change. That option can be used here. Okay. So what I want is I want this particular allocation should be done based on the percentages, like 1000 kbps, which means roughly if I take it as a percentage, 100%, in that I can only utilize 75%, which means out of 75%, what I want is the 20% should be utilized for this class, and then the remaining 35% should be utilized for this, and then there is a 25% should be utilized for this. So overall, it will become like you can see 35 plus 25, 60 plus almost it goes 80%, right? 35, 40, 50, 60, 80%. So you have to change these values that should not exceed this, or you have to change this to 90%. Let's say I'm changing this 90%. So the overall 80% of the bandwidth can be allocated. So this is another way you can calculate, because sometimes you don't want to go with these fixed numbers. Instead, you just need to give the percentages. So this is going to be another option you can go with. But again, you cannot run both at the same time. Let's try to change the options here. So what I'll be doing is I'll be saying this, and then I'll remove the bandwidth, and I'll say bandwidth percent. Let's say if I'm giving 20%. So probably the problem with this one is you cannot go the combination of both. Now here you can see the mixed bandwidth type are not supported. Now what this means is you cannot give some values are already configured with the fixed bandwidth, and I'm trying to give option with a percentage. So you cannot have the combination of both. You either configure only based on percentage, which means all values should be based on percent inside the single policy map, or all values should be based on the fixed bandwidth, like we did earlier. So either it should be fixed bandwidth, all options, or it should be the fixed percentage. So in my case, if I want to apply this, I have to remove all the options. So what I'll do is I'll quickly copy this policy, and then we'll remove this configurations here. So what I'll do is I want to remove these things, no bandwidth, and no bandwidth. We'll apply this. So first step, I need to remove these things. And once I remove these things, if you verify now, show run policy map. So now I can go to the individual class, and now I can give the percentage, like 20% here. Now this works. And I can go to this class map, and I can say the bandwidth percent, let's say 20 here. And then I can go to the another class, that is FTP, and I can say the bandwidth percent is 10. And for the default, I'm going with this. So this is another option. And if you verify show policy map interface S1 by 0, now here you can see it's going to be defined in terms of percentages. Now here you can see the 20% of 1000. So I changed the bandwidth to 1000. So the 20% of 1000 is 200 kbps. So likewise, it will display and each option. So again, we can generate some traffic, and you can verify the packet counters, and you can see the default traffic, remaining traffic automatically comes under this default one. So already this policy is applied on the interface already. So in terms of real scenarios, probably you won't see these options normally. This is something I have just configured for the sake of configuration and verification. But in the real production networks, probably you may see some options like using remote X Windows, SQL Server. You probably match all your web traffic in one class map. You also have some VoIP traffic, which we'll be seeing later on. And then you go ahead and apply the bandwidth option. So either you can use the fixed bandwidth option, or we can also use the specific percentage option as well.